interview by asking you perhaps to share a little bit more about yourself and your background, but especially how and why you got interested in issues such as philosophy and ethics in general, and transhumanism and the singularity in particular.
Okay. Well, philosophy, I started, I suppose, reading philosophy just before my teens, maybe my very early teens, but largely actually through psychology and then getting into philosophy. But my first real love, intellectually, I suppose, was economics. And I read huge amounts of economics, devoured the textbooks before I even studied it at school. But after a few years, I started exploring the questions that underlay economics. If I had to write an essay, for instance, on the proper role of government in the economy, then that raised not just economic questions, but questions of political philosophy. When you start thinking about political philosophy, you start thinking about ethics. What are the ethical foundations of political systems? Why do I have any obligation to obey the law, or do I? Which laws, depending on how they're promulgated, who sets them up? So that started me thinking about ethics. And then once you start thinking about ethics, you have to think about epistemology. How do we know things? How do we know things in the area of ethics? And so you start with this little small area, and it suddenly starts expanding to encompass the entire universe. And that's what philosophers do in their arrogance. They have something to say about everything. They talk about everybody else's discipline and its methodological foundations. They talk about the status of the different sciences and the social sciences and what people can know. So philosophers really think they're experts on pretty much everything at some abstract level. So that's how I got into philosophy. But for me, I think coming from the economics background and my particular interests, I'd always been a transhumanist in some form or another before the word was being used. To me, philosophy was about answering questions that I care about. It wasn't just an academic discipline where